And we're live. Yes, we're live. And I don't see my numbers moving there. Okay. I hope everything's okay. Okay, there we go. Yes, you've got your Omi Inc. 7 live coming to you. And this is Omi's production studio. And I wanted to take some time to voice my opinion after the trial of Bill Crosby and the outcome. I wanted to voice my opinion on what I felt. Since this had a lot to do with the women's movement, I thought that I should voice my opinion. And looking at the court cases and looking at the various different people that have spoke out, I can relate to a lot of the people that spoke out. I did listen to Black Dot's opinion, and out of all of the opinions that I heard on YouTube, his stuck out the most because he said something that made a lot of sense about how we've got to put our heads together and look at the layers of this situation and think this thing through. Because in my opinion, if you don't think things through, you will be emotional, just like he indicated. And that's been our problem in the past. We've been so emotional that we let our emotions get in the way of laying the facts out. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to lay some facts out. I'm not a member of the bar. No, I am not a member of the bar, and I'm not a lawyer. So I want to offer that as offer that up front to let you know that I'm not interpreting the law. But I want to talk about the court case and the courtroom because a person is considered innocent until proven guilty. Now, in my honest opinion, you have to understand that a person can be as guilty as sin, but if the facts are not there to substantiate it and to support it, and they have not have not submitted material evidence, then no matter how much they want someone to go to jail, no matter how many prejudices you might have against a person, or how bad you want to get a person and retaliate, there's something that's called retaliation that can be handled in a court of law as well, but you cannot bring these personal issues into the courtroom and use them against an individual when you're trying to prove a reasonable doubt with substantial evidence. Now, I want to look at the DA. I understand that there were two DAs. The first DA, who was called Bruce Castor, he was the first DA. And I think he got tired of looking at the things that could cause a mistrial. And he literally dismissed the case because he knew that they didn't have a case and he didn't want any part of it, in my opinion. Even though she had won $3 million in this situation, he didn't want any part of it. Now, I understand that Bill did not have to testify against himself, and he was told up front that he didn't have to testify against himself. And because if Bill had testified against himself, he would be incriminating himself. And it was all based on the guise that he would be incriminating himself if he testified against himself. And they kept saying they didn't think it was going to go to trial and that he did not have to testify against himself. They broke all the rules. Even though Bill did testify that he gave pills to this young lady, he did not say he gave her pills to inundate her for the purpose of sex. He said that he gave her pills, okay? Now, I understand this pill was over the counter, some type of Benadryl, and it wasn't the Quaaludes that she had been referencing to. And I understand many of these women have been taking Quaaludes for the benefit of getting high. So it wasn't their first time taking any pills. Now, they got Bill to testify on those bases, but they said they would not use it against him, but they did use that statement against him, when in fact they violated his constitutional rights. Now, what also is going to be a very, very interesting thing with Brett Kavanaugh. This man he's sitting on the highest courts right now, who's also being convicted, or who's also being charged or allegedly charged with several women stating that they have been touched by this man. And now we're going to have to look at how the courts are going to have to play this thing out, when in fact we know that Bill's constitutional rights were violated, and he was not given the benefit of the doubt when they told him his statement would not be held against him. Now, in using that statement against him, my question is, does that statement indict him? And if it is, it should be thrown out. Now, judging that this case was a 14-year-old case that she came out to talk about, but she continued to have Bill as a friend and to go to call him several times and to interact with him. If someone has raped you, why would you continue to be their friend and not seek some kind of help from the authority? That puzzled me. That should have told them that we might have to throw this case out a second time. And not to mention that the jury, one of the persons that was in the jury seat, exclaimed that, can we get on with this case so we can go home and get it over with? As if it was already planned that they were going to throw the book at him. And he was not dismissed from the courtroom, nor did the judge ask him to leave, and did they replace him. There were several violations going on in this courtroom, which Mr. Crosby's rights were being violated. And my question is, where was his representative, his counsel? Why didn't his counsel declare a mistrial when this escapade was going on? I understand that some of the women in the courtroom were talking out in lieu of describing what went on with them and Bill Cosby. I understand that it was basically an out-and-out zoo, and nothing was said to these particular accusers. And even though there may have been 17 women there, or over 50 women, what have you, the main thing is, while I don't believe in this case that he was being tried under, that he was guilty, he might have had relationships, consensual relationships with those women, and the relationship could have gone bad, and they could have threatened him in lieu of recouping money from them. I think a lot of these women came in sight unseen. There was no evidence they brought with them. They just raised their hand up and said, "Me too," and they were able to join the caravan. That was wrong. That shouldn't have never happened. Anyone could come in through the back door. Once they brought in the female lawyer, those women came in through the back door and said, "Me too." And they didn't have to substantially prove any evidence that they were violated through sexual intercourse or through being drugged. There was no proof or evidence that they ever had semen on them. And because it was over 14, and the newest case that they could show was a 14 years old, the rest of them were over 14 years and they had surpassed the statute of limitation. Now, while all this was going on in the courtroom, My main question to our people, our black people, irregardless if they were trying Bill for something he did do or didn't do, where was the camaraderie? Where was the people standing on the outside of the courtroom rallying and in support of Bill? Where was the black community to question the manner in which they held court? Because we could have dismissed the manner that they held court by virtue of them breaking all of his constitutional laws and declaring the whole case a misfit and getting it thrown out of the courtroom. Because these women waited beyond the statute of the limitation, and because some of them were out and out lying and were caught on the stand lying. And when the testimony came forth of the young lady who indicated that she had been told by one of the ladies that she was going to set up a scenario to get a high-paying individual that was in television to pay her money based on false evidence of her citing him as a criminal. She confessed this in the courtroom. No one took notice of this. No one took her case seriously and jotted that down to prove that they were out to get Bill, to kill Bill, to get Bill. Now, I think Bill was handed over prior to ever going to court because he had cited and made some statements to the black community that the black community did not like when he was trying to make correction on telling the black young men to pull their pants up and making statements about how they should go to school and do something with themselves. The black community became enraged. And in fact, they shouldn't have been enraged because he had been giving donations to black universities a long time ago, trying to help our race of people. It wasn't that he ducked out on us. He did the best he can with making donations to his own race. That was no reason for us to turn against him at a time like this. Yes, Bill may have been a lot of places he shouldn't have been, and he may have had a lot of relationships he shouldn't have been in. And you might say it's just the sign of the rooster coming home to crow. But I say, let's look into this a little deeper, because that case should have been tried a misfit and dismissed. Now, if Bill's lawyer is strong enough, Bill's lawyer will try to get an appeal on this case, because a number of things were incorrect in this courtroom procedure. One is that the DA left, the first one, and they had to get another DA, and the DA that came in, the second one, changed all the rules and went by his own rules and negated all the promises that they had made to Bill, violating his constitutional right. Now, most average people that are lay people can see that there's a discrepancy going on here. So in that situation, if we're looking at Judge Kavanaugh and his case and how they're going to try it, it would be interesting to see how that case is going to fan out, judging that Bill was given 3 to 10 years and put on a violators list, having to report into each community that he is a violator and having to be on house arrest. It seems rather harsh to me to destroy the man's credibility when in fact they had never proved that this young lady had been violated or raped. It would be a harsh sentence knowing that he would not only have to pay the 3 years to 10 years, but now his whole life must be ruined. It sounds like somebody really trying to destroy Bill, actually to kill Bill and what he stood for. Let's go back to the fact when he created Fat Albert, when he gave us the Crosby Show. He had built a reputation of what family is like. A lot of you young people may not remember it, but he did lay a foundation. And I understand he wanted to buy a television station, which most of the non-Melaninite people frowned upon and cautioned him not to. Even though he told other people he thought that he could present on the screen a better version of our community and clean up the airways with a better version of television. Nobody wanted a better version of television. And when he presented that to the other broadcasters, it was just like he caused them to want to move him out of the way. Now, I don't know exactly what the situation was. I don't know. Okay. I don't know exactly what the situation was, but it seems like to me he wanted to get into television pretty bad, and somebody didn't want him there. And I know that he thought that he could make a difference for the black race, and maybe his dream came tumbling down. But where I think we as black people may have went wrong, we didn't stay on top of the case, and we didn't support as much as we could have by rallying, coming to his aid. No matter what the outcome was, we should have been there. And I think that this case can be overturned and appealed. I sincerely believe that. And maybe somebody will come to their senses and realize that he got shafted and he wasn't given a good deal in the courtroom, and he never was proven guilty. And even though he could have been guilty, that court proceedings did not find him guilty. And that is a real situation. And therefore, if his lawyer is up on their law, they will request an appeal. And I'm hoping that he appeals the case. And maybe this time we'll get a chance as black people to show our faces and give our real opinion about the situation. Now, black men we know are being indicted, and we know black men are being treated more harshly. But look at all the men this year that have been brought up on charges with alleged rapes against other white women. Now, if we act all out and crazy like this about any white woman that raises her hand and says, "Me too." But for Oprah Winfrey to go on the stage at the end and said, "Me too," I didn't quite understand what was her disposition. I know she had been raped before. Maybe she meant supporting the women that are all who have been raped. But Oprah Winfrey's endorsement mean a lot. And I wish we could have talked to Oprah before she went on that stage. I don't know if it was impromptu when she went on the stage and it just suddenly happened prematurely, but I wish we could have talked to her as a people. We should have stayed neutral until we got all the facts. And when all the facts started coming out, we saw that they were frivolous. And when you make a frivolous charge, it doesn't have to be identified. Any frivolous charge. And these were frivolous charges. And women could not substantiate their claims. But yet it went into the courtroom as facts. And it was given to the jury to make a decision when the jury was out of order. Someone should have said, "No, we have to dismantle this person who has made a statement against this particular person who asked to rush this procedure through so he can go home and be done with it." They weren't fit to stand on the trial to be the jury. He was no longer fit. And the judge should have saw this and dismissed him from the whole case. And it should have been tried as a mistrial. There were so many things wrong, even a novice could have saw them. Now we are speaking in small groups about what has transpired. We should have spoke up in rallies. We should have been in the hallways of those courtrooms, and we should have been speaking out. And we should have made a statement. Now here we find out that Emmett Till's convictors and assailants are still living in their upper years. The woman who involved Emmett Till and who claimed that Emmett Till whistled at her was a part of the kidnapping. And she's still alive, but she's up in age, you say. So what is to be done about that? We really have to look at procedures and how procedures are being done in the courtroom, because law is law. When a law does not abide by itself, it's no longer a law. So what would be good for a Caucasian in the courtroom should be good for an African American. But at the same time, Black people, we were standing on the outside looking in instead of in the courtroom making statements. And now we come up with all these clever ideas about what went wrong. Maybe if we could have discussed in the courtroom what was going wrong, maybe they could see that it was obvious what they were doing, and they maybe would have retrieved and changed the whole procedure. Now, my only thing is that Bill is up in age, and he's not well, and he can partially see. And at the same time, all the good that Bill would do for the nation, including white folks as well, and the pudding pops and all the commercials, all the good that he could do and that he would do was long forgotten about. It was easy to kill Bill, to wipe him out completely. Why is it that when we don't agree with somebody, why can't we agree we can agree not to agree, rather than wanting to remove somebody from the planet? And this is a way of burying Bill, because he definitely cannot last for 3 to 10 years in that prison, unless God is a miracle worker. My prayer is that Bill won't have to do those years, and he'll get commemorated and released. My prayer is that another Black man doesn't have to spend needless years in prison because of a mistrial where things in the courtroom were not done correctly by the DA or the judge. And they need to have someone take a keener eye to look at them and to allow this man to have his day in court and to be properly tried, rather than to have a zoo running around in the courtroom under the pretense of holding down court. Now, Black people, I know you're meeting, you're getting together. Some of you have mixed opinions about Bill. Some of you have your own personal grudges against Bill. And some of you don't want to support him. And even some of you men, out of all people, are talking, saying, well, Bill brought it on himself. Bill led a lavish life. He was not a part of a color ring, because his money allowed him to be in certain places, and it didn't matter what color he was. It was the color of his money. And once he moved up to that ladder, he functioned in the realm of a white man. Yes, he did. And some of the things he thought he could get away with like a white man, he would soon learn that these women will throw a case on you. And that's what they did. When they couldn't get what they wanted, they threw a case on him. And he caught a case. And some of the women out and out said that their statements against a Black man would hold. And Bill should have known that. Bill should have known that if he had any relationship with any white woman, that she could manipulate him and get anything she wanted. Now, this Me Too movement, I think it was developed to create a powerhouse of women to speak out against powerful Bill. And it probably took all of that to bring him down. But it's a shame that he didn't speak up for himself And I know that he felt it would be better to be quiet. And when he did speak, they used that against him to incriminate him. And they made a promise that they would not. Now, this lady that received the money, she reneged on the deal. She should also be in the seats being tried right now because she reneged on the deal. So we got a lot of things that went wrong in that courtroom, and they should be studied by law students, and they should sit down, and maybe a young law student that's eager to build his career should point it out and take the case for Bill, and take Bill back in the courtroom and let real court prevail. Our justice system must prevail for all people, not just one person, and not because Bill's money wasn't big enough, and because they thought that they had the potential of earning all this money from Bill. Nothing good can come out of this, and even those people who think that they have won a civil case and won money, and the people that think that they're involved to get this money, somehow I do believe because Bill stayed quiet and he let God prevail, that Bill will get his day in court. And this time, the angels themselves will come to encamp around him, and Bill will know the benefit of speaking up for himself. But what kind of lawyer did he have that would not fight on his behalf and call for an appeal? I'm waiting to hear about the appeal. I'm waiting to see the next date for the appeal because he hasn't had his day in court yet. And this must happen according to our Constitution. Thank you so much for listening. And I had to get my opinion in there. And I listened to a lot of people speak about what was going on, a lot of negative, a lot of talk about he wasn't there for the black community. I think he was there for the black community as much as he possibly could be. I think he wanted to change the channel for black people on television. I think he wanted to change BET and get our sisters off of the floor, shaking their butts and revealing their continents. I think he wanted to change how hip-hoppers were being viewed on television and give them a chance to sing about something positive. See, when a group of people try to make you so low down, like you'll do anything for money, and have sex being displayed on the screen, and black men treating women like bitchs, I think he wanted all of that to change for us. I think he wanted more for us than we wanted for ourselves. I think he wanted to create a new world. It's a different world where we came from. He wants to show the Fat Alberts and how young boys would work to the sweat of their brows. He wanted to show a family that was a nuclear family. Some people think, oh, black people can't be rich like that. Oh, that is not how our black people live. Our black people don't have that money. That's a lie. There's a lot of black people that I know that live middle class. And for those of you who think they haven't, question me, I'll tell you. There's a number of us who live middle class and who came from status quos of doctors and lawyers and master's degree upon master's degree, and who bought property out in the Caucasian neighborhood and were the first black families there. There were a lot of us. And those people who are down on their luck, who haven't had that opportunity, don't make it bad for everybody else just because you haven't lived that lifestyle. You have not aspired to be at that level. But what Bill was talking about was real families that exist. And I knew a number of them, personal. And I think I take offense to someone trying to keep us pigeonholed to a lower level socioeconomic. And that's what we got to get out of our mind, because we were rulers at one time and we will be rulers again. But how can you rule anything when you have a basement life opinion of yourself? See, when you think whatever a man thinketh, so is he. If you don't think you'll never be on top and advance yourself, you won't ever be on top. You won't ever have the opportunity of having the best that God has to offer. And some of us have thought so low of ourselves that we get on this airway and we say, well, I don't know who Bill Cosby was demonstrating a lifestyle for, because we don't know anybody that lived like that, then you live in a very small peanut world, and you need to be extending yourself to other opportunities. There are many of us that live lavish like Bill tried to portray in the Cosby Show. There's many of us, and we got to stop thinking like that, else we'll never get over the greenhouse. And when our time comes, we won't even know it. You can't be so indulged in the hood that you can't see yourself doing any better. It's okay to go to the hood and do what you can for your people, but the best thing you can do is pull yourself up by the bootstrap and then go back and get your brother and pull him out. Nobody wants to stay in the hood. Everybody brags about the benefits of being in the hood. Nobody wants to stay at that level. Everybody wants to see their way out. And a lot of times our brothers and sisters fight us to get us to stay in the hood, making us think that we're disconnecting because we want to do a little bit better. We cannot have the mindset that everything in the hood is good. We know that each one of these people in the hood can be preying on each other. And even Judge Joe Brown said he had to get out the hood because it kept invading on him and robbing him. And he didn't want to have to kill anyone. I know what the brother means. I know exactly what he means. And you should know too. Whenever you get an opportunity to pull yourself up to do better, then you better do better and then go back and get mother, brother, and sister. But you can't do anything for anybody if you two are walking together. How can one or two walk together if they don't agree? If you are trying to pull yourself up, get yourself up and on your feet and then go back and get your brother or sister. Don't stay wallowing in the hood while there's terrible things going on. Sometimes our actual position and our state of mind can be so broken and warped from thinking we can't pull ourselves up. We do detrimental things to ourselves and our loved ones around us. That's why you see so much crime, black on black crime in the hood, because they're frustrated with themselves and their condition. So we cannot make the statement that we must stay down and we must not look up to expect a greater lifestyle, and we cannot stay in this state of mind that anyone that tries to pull themselves up is a phony, because they don't have to be. That's the purpose of going off to school and getting a degree, so you can have some of the finer things of life. And if you haven't noticed it, black homes in the hood are not appreciating very much at all. So you want your money to grow wherever you live. Not that white folks are doing it better, but that you can get a better rate on the cost of your house. So Cosby didn't stay in the hood, but Cosby talked about the things of the hood. He never forgot where he came from. He talked about the young children that were going through a lifestyle in the hood, and he showed them a better way. If we can remember before we killed off Bill, if we can remember, Crosby was the first thing we saw on Saturday morning, because we wanted to listen to his morals and we wanted to listen to his good judgment. And we lived our life by his concepts. Yes, we allowed someone to come and crush him to the ground, starting with taking things away from him. Now, I hope his wife is strong enough. I hope she will start a Me Too movement. I hope she will start a movement that will stand up for the causes of black men when they're being lied upon. I'm glad her daughter is speaking out too. But we got to find the positive thing in this and concentrate on the positive things and how we can make a difference behind this. Our dear brother being locked up is just like us being taken out of the community. If they can take him out of the community, it was a demonstration, like in slavery, when they took the strongest buck in the community and beat him down to an inch of death and made the other slave watch it, to put fear in them. This is another tactic to put fear in us, to tell us that we can go after your biggest and your greatest and your most possibly greatest hope, and we can tear him down. So what do you think we can do to you? We must constantly remember God is on our side. and God will come and vindicate us. But we've got to be a praying community. Bill didn't deserve that. I know he didn't deserve that because he's made too many contributions to society, white and black alike. He didn't deserve that, and God will vindicate him in due time. Maybe Bill have to be taught a lesson. You cannot rub shoulders with people that will eventually destroy you. Maybe he will be taught that lesson. And maybe this is a terrible time for him to have to learn that lesson. You never forsaken your own. Now, Bill had a wife. He shouldn't have had any relationships with any of those women, white or black. Maybe God has to speak to him, and he had to get him off by himself to speak to him. But my prayer is that the 10 years he doesn't have to do, or the marks on his name and his reputation he doesn't have to carry. We've carried so many stripes and we've handled so many beatings that it's time for us to get up. It's time for us to win. And when OJ had that win, everybody felt that we had won. And after they had described that they took pints of blood from OJ and put it down at the scene of the crime, I know that it was a setup then. I'm so glad that we were able to experience justice being rendered under that circumstance. And I do believe in due time, when this lawyer puts this case together again, she's going to come out with all power in her hand and overturn a wrong that was done wrong and give this man true justice once and for all. But don't you be discouraged and get on these airways and do exactly what you think they want us to do, speak against our dear brother, and to talk down against him, that all that work that he did with the Crosby show was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. And anyone says it was is a liar, and the truth ain't in you. That was the best thing that he could have given us a sight or a glimpse into what we could be like, even though we weren't there yet. It's always best to perceive yourself as what you want to become and work towards it, rather than staying in a ghetto down in the lower basement getting food stamps. It's better than not wanting to pick yourself up to be the very best that you can. So anyone get on this airway and tell someone that we never seen families that lived in the state that Crosby lived in and be able to make purchases on houses and be able to buy paintings, they need to check their history. There are a lot of rich people in this country, and they're black and people of color. If you haven't had that opportunity, maybe you're in the wrong profession, because everybody deserves to own a piece of land and some property, and they deserve to buy anywhere they want to. And we have fought enough in the civil rights movement for the right to live across the street from anybody we want to, and to use our money and our purchasing power to buy homes that are over 100,000. So, for those people that are getting in on these airways, being vindictive and speaking against their own people, I'm wondering if you're an agent, if you're working for the wrong person. And there's so many people who have gained a notoriety, and they get on here and they send our people the wrong direction. We should be speaking to our mothers that go back to school. Build yourself up. Start saving for you a house so you can move into a mansion on the hill. It doesn't have to be an all-white neighborhood, just one that has homes that are appreciated. You don't want to move anywhere where you're going to lose the shirt off your back because you have to pay to get out of a house who is depreciating instead of appreciating. So we've got to not only get our facts together, we got to encourage one another. And we got to be inspirationally speaking to every person that they want to advance themselves. Bill set the example for us. We may not be able to live in Beverly Hills, but we might be able to get us a house on the hill. But far as someone getting on these airways and trying to lead me and tell me I can't have certain things, or I'll never have certain things, or we can't perceive black folks as having them, it's a lie, because I've truly had those things. Yes, I have. And I am not bragging. I am just saying God is a great giver, and he wants us to have the great gifts that he has to give. And when we think in a manner like that, we'll always have the desires of our heart. But once we given up on our journey to advance ourselves, then we might as well lay down and die. We might as well give up the ghost. And I'm not ready to give up the ghost. I'm telling people to hang on a little while longer, because our time will come. Our time will come. And we will see the vindication of Bill Crosby. This isn't the end. The Spirit tells me this isn't the end, and you will see the vindication, because now they got something to compare it with. And everybody's eyes are watching, and they're watching to see what's going to happen with all these other cases and these other white gentlemen. How are they going to be viewed? And we must be on top of things with this, so that we can hopefully point out the inadequacy and point out the impartiality and show injustice in its ugly form, so that we can help to vindicate our dear brother. And don't forget that he's not gone from amongst us. We still must remember him. Don't shut him out. He is not just a memory. He is still a part of our household lives. He showed us how to be civil, how to have a family. He showed us how to balance children in the family. And don't tell me he didn't affect your life, because he affected all of our lives. And it's time for us to show it. Thank you so much. You've been a great listening audience, and I want to bid you farewell. OnThe.